flow.
Welcome to a GFP Game 2 reaction. Leafs Lightning. The Toronto Maple Leafs are back after an embarrassing Game 1 loss. They beat down the Lightning 7-2. It's funny because based on all the comments I saw on YouTube and TikTok, I thought the series was only a one-game winner-take-all. I thought it was over. I thought the Leafs were out. I thought they were already on the golf course. Isn't it funny that I haven't really heard anything over the last couple of hours? A lot of silence across social media after I was called delusional, after I was called a clown and an idiot for picking the Leafs in 6. It turns out in a 7-game series, you get a chance to bounce back. Michael Lepore, what are your thoughts on what we have seen over these first 2 games and specifically this beatdown from the Leafs in Game 2?
Anthony Bruno coming in a little angry, man. It must be playoffs that time of the year, I guess. Okay, so Leafs just won a playoff game 7-2 against a team that's been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Tavares scored a hat trick. Riley was 1 point shy of the all-time Leafs record for a single playoff game. Marner, another 3 points. Sammy didn't really get tested. I think it was only 21 shots on net for Tampa. So I'm sure a lot of people listening out there and watching on YouTube, I don't know how you're going to react, Bruno, but I'm sure they're expecting me to, as a Leafs fan, to pump their tires, right? Based on all the things I listed. It's very impressive, isn't it? Well, let me tell you that I refuse to do that. Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
I went into this game, Bruno, I have never been so calm for a Leafs playoff game. And this is why. Because I have convinced myself to refuse to believe in them. And I will not believe in them until they show me that they can do it. We had an episode this season titled that the Leafs are Jekyll and Hyde. Okay. Look at these first 2 games. Absolutely comical. That first game was the most Leafy thing I've ever seen. Unbelievable. Early goal, letting in a goal right at the end of the first, letting in a goal right at the end of the second. Every time you score, right, you got to give a penalty right after that. It was just brutal. Everyone looked bad. Of course, they looked amazing tonight, but I mean, the series has already shown us that momentum doesn't go from game to game. So I'll go into Game 3 the way I went into Game 2. They're going into a building that Tampa barely lost at this season. And it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. I'm happy they won tonight. But to say I'm optimistic about the series, I'm not there yet. I don't know about you.
You're not alone, Lepore, because all the Leaf fans that I talked to leading up to Game 2, they were sharing those exact same feelings that you just outlined. It's very, very difficult to believe in this team, especially in the playoffs. After all the times that they have let us down, they have shit all over themselves in big spots. It was hard to get behind them for this game. Listen, I have been a big proponent. I've been saying this now for the last few years under Sheldon Keefe. I've seen this team so many times after a bad performance bounce back. I had a very good feeling they were going to win tonight. Now, was I like super confident? No, I wasn't super confident. I felt good that they were going to show up and put in a really good effort, which they did. They put up a touchdown and an extra point. That was great to see. But I'm telling you, man, you are not alone. Most Leaf fans I talk to going into this game, they're like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm not confident in this team bouncing back at this point because they outplayed. They were better than Tampa all year, not only head-to-head against Tampa, but just over the course of the season. Finished 13 points ahead of them. It looked like this was the weakest Tampa team of the last 4 years, and they still laid an egg in Game 1.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to believe in them, but man, when they're playing like this in top gear, the Lightning cannot hang with this team at 5-on-5. That was my big takeaway over the first couple of games. Tampa got all those power plays in Game 1, went 4 for 8 on the power play. Most of the game was spent on special teams. No one could really get into a rhythm. I'll say this, Lepore, the beatdown that Tampa gave the Leafs in Game 1 did not feel like the beatdown the Leafs gave Tampa in game 2.
That's a take.
It did not feel the same to me. And maybe you can call me biased. Obviously, I'm a Leaf fan. I felt that first game, it was a lot of power plays. Like I said, no one can get into a rhythm. It didn't even feel like Tampa outplayed them at 5-on-5. The first period was a shit show in game 1. But from the drop of the puck till the end of this game in game 2, Lepore, the Leafs absolutely waxed the floor with this team in every situation. And that was great to see. And I feel really confident still that Toronto's going to win this series.
Wow, really confident. We don't disagree very often, Bruno, but we disagree here because I'm not going to be confident. I refuse to be confident. And maybe I'm trying to do this internal thing where I convince myself that I'm going to be unhappy at the end of this. So maybe the opposite will happen. But looking forward to game 3. Let's see what Leafs team shows up. The bunting thing too, add that to the list of Leafy things from game 1. One thing I will say about tonight, okay, is what jumped out to me was O'Reilly, Achari, and McCabe.
Yes.
And Shen. And all the depth weight that this team added. McCabe, it's funny, McCabe took that penalty. I was waiting for him to take a penalty because you could tell from the drop of the puck, his heart rate was a little too high. I'm like, you got to relax, bro. Like, this is going to be a suspension or something. You're going to get an elbow up and it's not going to be good. But those guys and Gio fighting, amazing. Old guy like that, awesome. But yeah, that's one thing I will be very happy about because awesome to see. And that's stuff we haven't seen in the past. We get told all the time that the Leafs are easy to play against. They don't stand up for themselves, stand up for their teammates. While tonight, they went toe-to-toe with Tampa in that regard. But I will say this, man. I will say this, and this is a talking point, and comment down below, okay, what you guys think about this. I have always wanted Corey Perry to play.
You were the number one Corey Perry fan.
Oh my
I
God.
can confirm that.
I have always wanted him to play for the Maple Leafs, okay? And when he became a free agent, when he signed with Montreal, I was expecting him to sign with Toronto, full-blown expecting him. And he did not. And the buzz was that we decided to go with Wayne Simmons instead. Way to go, #Leafs. And then moving forward as well, there was the whole thing with Tampa, and then Tampa gave him the 2 years. I don't know if we were willing to do that, but I honestly think that we always talk about mistakes or like shoulda, coulda, wouldas with our favorite teams. What a mistake. Imagine this team had Corey Perry.
Lepore, I cannot believe he continues to turn back the clock and morph into 2010 Corey Perry every time he plays the Leafs. I'm at a loss for words watching it. He scored again tonight. The guy has 4 points in 2 games. It's unbelievable, man. He is a pain in the ass, and he can still bring it even at his age.
Yeah, I've never really bought into the whole thing that people say, like, oh, like certain players elevate their game in the playoffs. Well, I shouldn't say I've never believed in it, but I just think it's a very small group. Like, people will point to star players and say, oh, look what they did. It's like, well, they light up the regular season too. They're just also lighting up the playoffs. Certain guys, of course, like Claude Lemieux is like top of the list with that, but you can see Corey Perry, man, like he stands out. Like there were times he's like the best guy on the ice. Unbelievable, just possessed, and he wants to win so bad. You can just tell. I feel like the Perry Getzlaf Ducks, I don't say they got robbed. I mean, they were in the West with LA and Chicago, but like almost like they deserved another cup. Like those teams were really good and very well could have won another Stanley Cup. So I'm sure that boils Perry a little bit, and he wants it, man. Like he wants it hard. So
he relishes it, man. Even when he got thrown out of the game at the end and given a 10-minute misconduct, like he's just smiling at the crowd. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the Scotiabank Arena crowd was chanting, "Perry sucks. Perry sucks. Perry sucks."
Did you see Maroon?
It sounded like.
Did you see Maroon chirping fans from the penalty box?
Oh yeah, Maroon. You know what though? I love it, Lepore, because not only are the Leafs in their heads now the fans are in the players' heads. Like they were getting in Maroon's head and Perry's head, and maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion a little bit. Like these guys are pros; they've been along.
No, Maroon was rattled. Maroon was rattled.
They were visibly rattled. That's what it seemed like. So shout out to those fans. don't cross the line. Like, don't jump into the penalty box or throw anything into the penalty box. But I think they towed the line pretty nicely. And I like how they kind of rattled those Lightning players in the box. And you said it, man. Just the people who are still saying that the Leafs have no heart and no grit and they're soft. This game was a perfect example. Noel Acciari, even in game one, that guy is
amazing.
He's a wrecking ball. He's just ramming into everybody. Ryan O'Reilly, a winner. Luke Shen fighting Tanner Jeannot. Mark Giordano dropping the gloves. Austin Matthews, have you noticed, Lepore? Like, he's running into guys, man. Over these first couple of games, he hasn't been, at his absolute best peak of his powers, Austin Matthews, but he's got 4 points. He's finishing checks. He's creating scoring chances. This team, I'm telling you, man, I don't want to say like they're different, like this, it's their year. This is the team, but the identity that they are showing over these first couple of games, and again, I know the first game was a disaster, but the response I saw tonight and the heart and the grit, I mean, it was all there, man. I don't know if they can continue this. If they can, they are going to be a very big problem for any team in the Eastern Conference, and that includes the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, when you win a game by 5 goals, you can point to a lot of reasons. How much of, part of it for sure, but how much of it was no Cernak and no Hedman?
Yep, that was a big factor. Like, that decor was decimated. You could just tell, like, they were getting caved in, man. Lepore, there were shifts where the Leafs were just all over them. And you have to believe if Hedman and Cernak were in the lineup, it probably wouldn't have been that easy for Toronto. But that's a big story moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, Hedman, he plays through a lot of injuries.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Like, something's going on for that guy to leave game one early in the second period, to not play tonight. He must be dealing with something pretty significant. And if he's going to miss the rest of this series, I mean, the Leafs got to win, man. I mean, there's no excuse.
I think the alarm bells went off when he left, he came back, and then he left again. Yes. So it's like, no, something hurts. And wrong. It's happened to me. Like I messed up my knee earlier this year, and you heard it, and there's a thing of like, what is it? And then you come back and you're like, no, this can't happen. And I ended up like tearing my MCL. And I have no idea what Hedman's injury is, but to me, that was the alarm bell. The fact that it's like, hey, I'm going to test this out, and no, I got to shut this down, because then he's actually and truly feeling pain. Mention that Jeannot Shen fight. That was a tilt, bud. That was one of the better fights that I've seen in a long time.
That was a heavyweight tilt.
Yeah, they were throwing haymakers. But the game was fun. The Leafs won by 5. But you said, like, the crowd, some of the guys on our team clearly got under their skin. I'll ask you this. Speaking of getting under people's skin, does Michael Bunting wear a Leafs jersey ever again?
I'm glad you brought that up, because based on how Matthew Knies played tonight and based on how Matthew Knies played in his 3 regular season games leading into the playoffs, it is going to be very tough for Bunting to get back into the lineup unless there's an injury. And you know what, man? He might have played his last game as a Leaf, because, listen, I think the Leafs are going to win this series. I think they're going to move on. There's probably going to be an injury at some point and he'll draw back into the lineup. But next season, I don't like his chances, man. I think the lack of discipline is alarming, and that stupid headshot to Eric Cernak in game 1 was just unacceptable, and it essentially lost the game for the Leafs, because when they scored on that power play, the game was basically over. It's going to be tough, man. I'll say this. I loved what I saw from Matthew Knies. How about you?
He's an NHL player. Like, he plays with weight. That's the first thing you can see with guys who come in, like, they're early in the NHL, or these kids who get called up from college or come out of college, I should say. They play, this sounds really condescending, but they play light, I find, because at whatever level they were playing at, I mean, their skill just was too good for everybody else, and they dominated. And their weight lacks. And by weight, I mean their style of play. No, Knies looks fine. He looks normal. He's laying hits. He looks confident. And he's had a few close calls too on shots, even like setting up other people. So we talked about it last week on whether or not we thought he was going to be in the lineup. We were wrong about game 1. We thought he was going to be in the game 1 lineup, but based on how he looked tonight and how he looked during the regular season, it's tough. It's tough to picture this team without him. And even like the lineup for tonight, man, like Bunting, like in his classic spot with Matthews and Marner on the top line. No, Yarncroc's better there, man.
Yeah. Bunting was
Like,
just not generating enough for me. It's not even a lack of discipline. Like offensively, he was just leaving a lot to be desired. Like it was
yeah,
just, there wasn't enough there from him offensively, man. And
yeah,
it comes in spurts, and there's some games where he looks great, but he just left me wanting more, man. Most of the season, not even just in game one. I mean, everyone was pretty bad in game one, but and you know what
yeah,
else I love? I love the three centermen now. Matthews,
yeah.
Tavares, O'Reilly on three separate lines. Nye's on that third line with O'Reilly and Achari. Yarncroc on the top line. It was a well-oiled machine tonight, and I think they got to stick with that lineup moving forward.
Yeah. Again, tough to argue with you because he mentioned the 5-on-5 thing. When you have that kind of depth at center, that just pushes it even further, right? And these injuries Tampa had, even like Cirelli got hurt near the end of the game. He didn't leave the game, but little things, little bumps, these costumes, man. And like Vasilevsky hasn't looked good,
No.
right? I mean, it's easy for us to say, oh, 7 goals, he didn't look good, but he had little spurts where, he reminds you that
He
he's
still made some 10 bell
Vasilevsky.
saves, even with the Leafs up
Yeah.
7-2.
Yeah, because
But
he's
when you
like a
allow
god.
7,
Yeah.
it was like Samsonov in game one. That's the last thing, Lepore, before we wrap up this reaction pod. How do you feel about Samsonov moving forward? Because game one was a disaster, and he looked pretty solid in game two.
Yeah. Ugh. Again, like I kind of see Samsonov the way I see the rest of the team. I know he's capable, but I'm not going to be confident in it until I see it. Game 3, I don't know. He was bad in game 1. Jesus, he was bad. If that Sammy comes out in game 3, I won't be surprised. I'm hoping game 2, Sammy comes out. And again, going back home against a Tampa team that's so good at home, we know what to expect from them. I think everyone would agree that game 3 is not going to be as easy as game 2 was. Vasilevsky's probably not going to get beat for 7. On that point, too, they put out, I think Friedman said the tweet, he just doesn't like to come out no matter what. Because you would have thought, like, hey, they'll put Elliott in just to play the third. Who cares? No, he didn't want to come out. Like, I don't know how to take that. Is that like your ego working too hard in overdrive, or is that just a pro wanting the reps? I don't know. I guess there's an argument for both sides.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the goaltending, it was like night and day from game one to game two for both sides because Vasilevsky was good in game one, Samsonov was terrible, and then Samsonov was good in game two, and Vasilevsky was terrible. But it seems like both of these coaches are just riding with these guys. I mean, it seems like John Cooper's just never going to pull Andre Vasilevsky. Like the Lightning could be down like 12-1, and he's just going to leave Vasilevsky in the game.
Yeah. Well, he
And at
wants
this
that
point,
record, right? He wants that record, right? They showed on TV tonight, that he's like but 3 or 4 games away from Broder for like most consecutive.
and I should mention that Joseph Wall did come into the first game for the Leafs,
did.
but I never thought for a second that they were going to turn to Wall in game two. Like when I sat back, took a deep breath, it's like there's just no chance they're going to Wall in game two. They're going to keep going with Ilya Samsonov.
Yeah, that would have been just bad because it would have been desperate.
Yeah.
That would have been, wow, the Leafs. I'd be the first one to say that if they put Wall in, the Leafs are panicking, full blown 100%. Panicking.
So what do you think? Are you still sticking with the Leafs in 5? Are the Leafs still going to win this series? I still think the Leafs are going to win in 6. That was my prediction. I'm sticking with that. But as we stand right now, tied 1-1, are the Leafs going to win this series?
I refuse to say they are.
Come on.
I refuse to say they are. They got to show me. I'm going into every game. I'm not going to say I'm going into every game expecting them to lose, but I'm going into every game with very little optimism. And I'll put it this way. It's like, you know how high something can be and how low something can be? I know how low they can be, and it scares the shit out of me. And there's always that chance it can be that bad. So I'm not going to be confident in a group that can be that bad. And it's up to them to convince me otherwise. If this team reels off 4 straight wins, well, game 1's going to feel like a million years ago. And we can say, yeah, it was a bullshit bad night. But again, they got to show me. If I was betting right now on the series.
Don't say it, Lepore. Don't say it.
Bruno, they don't have home ice anymore.
They got to take back home ice. They got to take at least one game in Tampa, obviously.
Yeah, and they guaranteed themselves at least like one game back in Toronto winning tonight. But like they got, I've seen Tampa do it. I've never seen Toronto do it. And until Toronto does it, they're not, I'll put it this way, they're not going to be the team I pick. I'll put it that way.
Okay. I mean, fair enough, Lepore. Listen, like I said, I don't think you're alone. I think there's a lot of jaded Leaf fans who are still angry at how this team flip-flops from game to game and they can't be trusted in the playoffs. But we'll see how they respond in game 3. That's going to do it for this reaction pod. Game 2 reaction. Leafs with a dominant 7-2 win. I'm still waiting, Lepore, for all these comments on YouTube and TikTok to start flooding in about how stupid and delusional I am and how much I don't know hockey and I don't know what I'm talking about because I picked the Leafs in 6. It's funny how people forget that it's a 7-game series.
Like I picked the Leafs in 5. They must have really been ripping me if they were ripping you for Leafs in 6.
Oh, man. Lepore,
I'm more likable, though, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit more likable since I bash on every other Canadian team. It's funny because I bash on the Leafs as well, but people hate me because I make fun of their teams that stink when they do stink, like the Ottawa Senators missing the playoffs again and Calgary being terrible and Edmonton almost going down 0-2 at home. But hey, the Oilers bounced back as well. Nice bounce back performance from the Oilers.
Just sliding that in at the end of the pod, hey, Bruno, right at the end.
I can't help myself, Lepore.
No, you can't.
All right, that is going to do it for this Game 2 reaction episode of the GFP Podcast. Thank you for listening and watching us on YouTube. Please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And if you enjoyed this short episode, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below with your prediction for the series. Do you still have the Leafs or Lightning? I mean, who knows? I don't know who you were riding at the start of the series, but let me know. Maybe you changed your mind over these first couple of games. That's going to do it for this one. And Lepore and I, we will enjoy the next few games, and we'll see you guys soon in a longer episode of the GFP Podcast. But until then, enjoy the playoffs and go Leafs go. We will see you very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Gentlemen, if you didn't already know, it's tax season. I mean, I hope you know it's tax season. And you know what that means? Manscaped is here to make sure your paperwork is done and your boys downstairs are having fun. Yes. Make sure you spend your tax return money on the important things this year, like family, friends, and ball products. Join the 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive promo code GFP20. Lepore, Manscaped never misses, man.
Manscaped never misses. Anthony Bruno. As mentioned, tax season sucks. You're going through all that paperwork, gold receipt. It's all complicated. Well, I'll tell you what's not a complicated part of your life: keeping your balls clean. So as soon as you finish watching this ad, head over to manscaped.com, look at all the amazing products, find what you like, throw it in your cart, and when you're checking out, don't you dare forget, use the promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
And in order to keep your balls clean, you need to use the Lawnmower 4.0. This thing is outstanding. I've been using this thing for a long time now, as has Lepore. Keep your nose hairs clean, your ear hairs. Use the Weed Whacker. I mean, there's so many amazing products on the website. And once again, to get 20% off and free shipping, use our exclusive promo code GFP20. Go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive promo code GFP20.